about the Indian news?
I've
goggled
heard
it.
some of it, but I haven't looked at a lot of it. I saw a couple people have been making a couple of things about it.
We got like an official release about what happened with Indian at the, all the dealers got the official release, and I'm guessing that I don't think it was like really lawyer speak though. It was corporate speak, but it wasn't lawyer speak, and basically what it said was like they're trying to spin it as if Indian isn't being sold off necessarily. They are being sold, but they're trying to spin it as if Indian's going to go out on its own. And the trouble that I see with that is within the same information that they gave us, they kind of describe some of the financials. And basically it's like Indian wasn't producing what they needed them to produce, not only in revenue, but to the bottom line. So Indian only provided 7% of Polaris's revenue. And what that equated to on their bottom line, I'm not sure. I don't know what the cost and everything looked like
So, per Uncle Google, it sounds to me like they're splitting Indian off, Polaris is, and they're selling the majority of it to Carolwood LP.
Yes.
But I'm assuming that means they're keeping some sort of a ownership interest in the brand.
I know what I think is Polaris is giving up all of their stake.
I don't think so.
I think they are, because they're selling off what they're saying is the controlling stake. And I believe that Polaris isn't the only investor in Indian. So I think that there's other investment in Indian. Plus, Indian is a publicly traded company, or Indian isn't. Polaris is a publicly traded company. So I don't know how it's all structured.
Well, so I would think that if Polaris is a publicly traded company, that would mean that they would have to spin off Indian, and then Carolwood picks up a majority stake, and then I don't know. I feel like the way that it sounds to me, though, is that they're not completely disposing of it. It's just they're taking it off their register so that they can do that type of a transaction.
And what it ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to inject a bunch of capital and cash into Polaris to allow them to go and concentrate on what they are good at, which is off-road and watercraft and snowmobile.
Which
and
the market thinks it's good because this says Polaris shares surge on Indian motorcycle unit spin-off.
And I wouldn't doubt one, they buy back some of their own stock, and two, they're going to reinvest back into their core business. I don't think there's going to be growth into new markets. I think they'll just reinvest in core business, and they're going to stick with non-on-road product. But weirdly enough, they're keeping Slingshot. That was a weird thing to me. I was like, if Indian's only contributing 7% of the revenue, Slingshot has to be contributing much less, especially on a worldwide scale. Because at least Indian's sold worldwide. I don't think Slingshot's sold worldwide. I can't see it selling well in third world. Like, I just can't.
No, but I could see it going in Europe and other weird countries.
I don't even know if it goes in Europe. I honestly don't.
Probably in low numbers.
Well, I would wonder about their
like the
laws.
UAE or something like that.
Imagine it trying to get through their laws and everything. Anyways.
Well, if it's registered as a motorcycle.
Here we have the truth, because it's from the Wall Street Journal. It says that 900 of Polaris's 15,000 employees will transition to the new standalone company. Indian will maintain its manufacturing facilities in Spirit Lake and Monticello. And then it says Polaris will keep a small equity position in Indian after the deal is completed in the first quarter of 2026, of which they say that it'll continue to produce other on-road vehicles, including the three-wheeled roadster called the Slingshot.
Yeah, so Polaris is keeping Slingshot. Indian is going to Carolwood. So we looked up into Carolwood just to kind of see what they looked like.
Yeah, let's see what other things they own.
Carolwood owns a bunch of food-related stuff, like food-related franchise stuff, and some other things as well. But one thing that always concerns me is when a company's sold off to venture capitalists, we're looking at somebody that could possibly piece them out, especially if they don't produce. And being that while they were with Polaris, Polaris wasn't happy with their production of value.
Mhm.
Why would these people be?
Well,
any
this is
better
like the
off
last.
with
This
them?
is the last stop.
And then
It's like they started out on their own. Indian did long ago, and then they fell back to a point where they needed injection, and so they kind of go through this cycle of getting new investors, and then the investors get tired of it, and so then they sell their investment off, and somebody else buys it. It's just like this circle, but you
Well-
keep falling down the hill every time you roll just a little bit more, and they're like at the bottom of the hill right now.
so Carolwood, if you look them up, they're there's like two main guys in their real estate investors. And what do real estate investors do? They
Burn money.
They buy stuff and flip it.
Yeah.
And
That's private equity in general.
I know that's
Yeah.
that's what's concerning. Like you're talking like private equity. You're talking about guys who are in private equity that come from the real estate world. They don't come from the manufacturing world.
No, and whenever I've dealt
They're
with
not there to
any-
produce a
yeah.
product. They're there to just flip something and
Yeah.
make more money.
Yeah,
out of
but
Flip
they
it and
don't.
make
They
money.
don't care about quality. All they care about is the bottom line. So
Exactly.
any type of manufacturing company that I've dealt with in a working relationship, if it's private equity owned, firstly, the PEs usually flip them within 3 to 5 years, and secondly, you have issues with quality because they're just concerned about the bottom line, so they cut anything
there's
and
cost
everything that's
cutters.
non-essential.
Well, and what I see happening is they're not going to innovate or do anything new.
No.
They're going to at best case, they're going to maintain product lines. I'm sure a few things will drop off.
I think they'll
because
cut down product lines.
They're going
I
to
think
cut
so
some
too.
stuff that they don't need that, they're just going to try to maintain to maximize the amount of dollars coming in, not spend any money innovating or providing anything new that's cost money to make. They can do paint jobs and whatever else, stuff like that. But in terms of like creating a new bike or anything, I don't think that will happen with these people. They're probably betting on them being able to cost cut their way into profitability and then sell it off as, hey, this investment's positive now. I want more money, and to sell it to somebody.
Yeah,
That's what I think is all that's going to happen.
That's pretty much how it works.
They're going to cut until the money coming in equals the money going out, and then they'll sell it off
Yeah, once
to
they
make more money.
once
hopefully.
they can show on paper that it's profitable,
Yes.
then they can sell it off for their profit.
Yep.
And the way they're going to get to profitable isn't by value expansion, it's going to be by cost cutting. They're not going to go in and create some like revolutionary new product that's going to, just rock the market.
If any revolutionary product or revolutionary thing, or if there was anything that was going to be built, it would have been done under Polaris. These people aren't going to do it.
And Polaris, like what's sad about it is Polaris is a successful manufacturer. They know how to build stuff. And going to a company or going to a private equity that has nothing to do with manufacturing, like manufacturing is so complicated compared to buying an asset like real estate or buying an operating company as an asset and flipping it. There's so much more complication to the operations of it. And, like through supply chain and God only knows all the regulations they have to go through to sell motor vehicles in different countries and everything.
Yep.
Like complying with all that. Private equity doesn't care. They're there to make their buck.
Well, so here's a hot take. If this private equity company that knows nothing about motorcycles or the industry is purchasing Indian, that makes me think that maybe there's something we don't know about what they're doing that makes it very easy for them to take this company that may or may not be hemorrhaging money and turn it around.
So the claim to fame that Carolwood has is they don't sell companies. That's like
They
they're
just acquire and keep.
acquire and keep. But I'm like, what real estate investor does that? That's ridiculous.
I mean, I guess it all just comes down to whether or not they can
Oh.
make it profitable.
And by the way, the two guys that started Carolwood they're Ivy League educated
I was just looking at them.
real estate. They're young. They're like in their 30s, maybe 40.
Adam Rubin and Andrew Shanfield.
They're young guys, And I don't know. It just,
Adam is a graduate of Harvard Westlake School.
see, they're Ivy League and everything, which is, I mean, that's fine. I'm sure they're smart business guys. I'm not, trying to dog on them or nothing. It just,
Well, what they're going to do, they didn't buy Indian because they love Indians.
And it's not
they
a
bought
passion
Indians
project.
for money.
That's exactly it.
And if it comes down to it of, we made this positive, we've got an opportunity to sell this for more than what we bought, we're going to make money on this, they're going to do it. Who wouldn't?
Yep.
And whatever, they can make it into some fanfare thing where like,
They're trying to spin it like
whatever.
Like, don't worry, Indian customers. Everything's going to be. You're not even going to notice anything.
What did they say when the Titanic was sinking? What did they tell everybody? Oh, you're fine. Everything's fine.
So it's like, and I feel bad for the 900 employees that are involved in this transition and their long-term outlook, because I just get the feeling in my gut that ultimately it's not going to go well, and it's not going to happen like in a year or two. I think it's going to be a 3 to 5 year thing. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but ultimately, like if Indian doesn't and sadly enough, like the motorcycle industry is on a downturn right now anyways because of other market forces. So if this private equity company picks Indian up and expects it to be profitable, we're entering a market that's already in a downturn. Like that's just a whole bunch of perfect storm for Indian to be dissolved. And like that's what's kind of like, I don't know, this is a little shaky. It'd be a whole lot more hopeful of an outlook if they had stuck with Polaris, or if Polaris had stuck with them.
They got more capital to keep it floating
And
when it goes negative.
Polaris understands the market and they know how to weather the storm.
Yep.
Polaris has been around a good long while. They sell products in this particular market. They've been and they are a manufacturer, so they understand these things.
Yep.
These people aren't. I mean, I'm sure they understand market forces.
Well, and it makes you wonder, why did they decide to get rid of it then? If they know that they could keep the business and the brand around, why would they now decide to sell it?
So our Indian rep, she was in earlier this week, and she had mentioned that she gave us an example of why this could be a good thing for Indian. She said they, just a couple weeks ago, they were sitting around having their meetings and trying to come up with strategy to basically move out this 2025 inventory. It's the same thing all the manufacturers are going through. It's not like an Indian specific problem. This is every year you always have leftover inventory that you got to get rid of. So they're trying to figure out ways to move this inventory, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to offer a 0% financing for 60 months. So they went to Polaris. The folks at Indian went to Polaris like, may we please do this? And Polaris said no, because we're already doing that on off-road product. For whatever accounting reasons that Polaris has on that, they tell them no. And they said that's only one example of many where when they come up with an idea, they go to Polaris and Polaris shoots them down because this, that, or the other, because it's not worth doing, since Polaris wants to concentrate more on what is worth doing to them. So that's on the flip side where this could be something better. It could, free Indian to do other things and not just discount, their finance promotions and stuff like that. But I'm thinking like, what if they do come up with a truly new design and it was always it was always Polaris holding back Indian, saying, no, you can't do that new design. You have to stick with this one. We don't want to implement those costs right now. So if Indian could innovate, if they were on their own, because they don't have that in their way anymore, that's where it could be a good thing. And maybe they could come up with some, exciting new product.
That's not going to happen.
I feel like it's not. And for 2025, they announced this exciting new 2025 Scout, and they came out and it's new frame, new engine, new this, new that, blah, blah, blah. And what I had noticed was they went the wrong way for what the market signs were calling for. The market has shifted towards smaller capacity engines. The market shifted towards lower priced bikes. the hottest bikes on the market right now are low capacity and mid capacity. And Indian's smallest engine's 1,000 cc's. I was like, why didn't they make an 800? Why didn't they make a 700? And not only why did they not make those? Why did they not price them around like $7,000-8,000 instead of $10,000 starting point and going up to $17,000 in the Scout line?
Yep.
I just think it's too expensive of a product. And don't get me wrong, it's a decent selling product for what it is. But my number one seller at my store, and this is just anecdotal, but the number one selling Scout at my store is the $10,000 one.
The cheapest one.
Yep.
Well, and you can buy the cheapest Indian that they sell, or you can buy, like the 890 SMT or whatever is pretty similarly priced, about 10 grand, right?
No, these were originally like 14,
Okay.
but they're still in Scout territory. If you get a
Yeah.
Scout 1250, that's going to be about 14
But like
grand.
the bars are offset here. Like you can get a pretty nice middleweight,
For
fairly
10
premium
for 10
bike
grand.
for 10 grand.
There's so many options out there for 10 grand that they're competing with. And I think they just remain so narrow focused on cruisers, and they just aim directly at Harley.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to aim directly at Harley because Harley's been in a downturn over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Harley's not doing that well this year.
That's like
So I wouldn't want to compete directly with them because I'm like,
That's
their entire
too-
market segment's not doing well.
It's two companies fighting against each other on a sinking ship.
Exactly.
Like,
Like it's just
how
it's just
about
silly.
You can fight each other while the whole entire ship sinks, or you can fix the ship.
And Indian had such an opportunity reinventing itself with Polaris's leadership. Polaris had such an opportunity to take Indian and have it reinvented into a modern motorcycle company rather than just clutching onto that heritage and building bikes that go directly with Harley and everything, which is whatever. They could still do those.
They need to elevate above Harley.
Yeah, exactly. They could still do those and compete with Harley on certain models, but they could also expand into new territories that Harley can't touch.
Yep.
And I felt like there was a huge missed opportunity there. And Polaris, I don't know why they chose to just lean into heritage like that. It's like, dude, 1997 to 2006, that time period is over. That was the glory days for cruiser motorcycles
Yep.
in modern history. And
OCC choppers.
like that time period is done. Like let it go. It's not coming back. The best selling bike in Europe is a BMW GS. And Europe buys way more motorcycles than US
Yeah.
does.
Well, and they can hold on to those. They can have 2 or 3 products that are that. Make the small version, make a little bit less expensive, cheaper, like the 8 Scout 800 or something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
They could still do Scout, a mid-size like a Chief, and then
Yep.
a larger bike, the Challenger and Pursuit.
Yeah, and they can call that the classic line or something like that.
And then just like Triumph does.
Yeah.
Triumph has their classic line, and then they have their modern line. And like Triumph is, I'm not like the biggest Triumph fanboy, but I can respect.
They've been killing it lately.
I can respect what they're doing business wise.
The last couple of years, they've really got their shit together.
And they really stepped up the level of bikes and then, the product they're offering for the price they're offering it. I feel like you get a really quality, great, exciting product with Triumph. And you can buy either retro themed and styled, and it's like authentic,
Mhm.
they can lean into their heritage, or you can buy this new modern stuff that competes with any of the Japanese or any of the other European brands.
Which,
So-
I don't see Indian ever doing anything new and modern.
The FTR was about as close as we ever got.
Yeah.
It was about as close as we ever got, and the trouble I had with the FTR is everybody loved to love it. Everybody thought it was the most beautiful
Wasn't
bike.
it
It's great
expensive?
looking.
But
Yeah.
if you ride the thing, it's like you can tell Polaris and Indian don't know how to build that kind of bike. The motor, the fueling was not good. The transmission wasn't great. It didn't have quick shifter. It was missing out on ride mode adjustability. Like it had different throttle modes, but it only had like 3, and it wasn't very adjustable. The bike was wide. It was physically wide. So as a sport bike, it just didn't feel good underneath you. I had the cruiser bros would come in. They would sit on an FTR and they wouldn't like it because it was too tall and it had rear sets.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sport bike. And then the sport bike bros, they would come in and sit on it,
It's not a sport bike.
and it's too wide, it's too heavy, and then they'd ride the thing. The fueling was off, and it ultimately didn't make that great a power. You know, and your starting price point was 13 grand, and then they'd go up to about 17, almost 18 grand.
Well, and it had a bad wheel size on it originally too, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it had a terrible wheel size. Well, they corrected that in 22. They put the 17s on
Yeah.
it. But, you know, you'd look at that price point and look at what else you can get. We sell KTM in the same store. At the same time, you could look at the 890 Duke R, which was 12 and a half grand.
Yep.
It's cheaper, and it outperforms it in every way by far. It's not even close. So the FTR was just kind of a missed opportunity. And what I thought they could have done was taken that platform, that FTR platform, and turn it into an adventure bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it would have made a fantastic adventure bike. Because with the adventure bike, you can
Yep.
get away with 500 pounds. That's no problem.
Well, and then just refining what you got, and like, yeah, adventure bike. Okay, you don't need a quick shifter. You don't need that
You don't
fancy
need that
of
stuff.
electronics.
Yeah.
I would say they would have to up the dash on an adventure bike. They'd have to do a better dash
And,
because
well,
adventure bros want the fancy dash.
They would be able to because they would have the room to do it on an
Yeah.
adventure
But isn't
platform.
Adventure Bro gonna buy an Indian adventure bike?
They buy
Maybe.
Harley Pan Ams.
They buy Pan Ams. I like the Pan Am. I'd buy one if it
Okay.
were a little bit better.
Yeah, the Pan Am.
If they'd have continued the product line and refined it.
The Pan Am is like something that I can give respect to Harley, and I'm not saying that the Pan Am is good. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it was a great first attempt, and I thought it was a actually pretty decent motorcycle. It has some misses, and when you compare it to bikes that are have a lot more legacy in that market, like KTM, like BMW, even like Triumph and stuff, those bikes are a lot better sorted. Where the Pan Am's
Yeah.
just not quite as.
They've been in it
sorted.
longer. The Pan Am had 2 years.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
didn't even get a chance to fix any of the things that were wrong.
And if Harley, because Harley is due for like a Gen 2 Pan Am, they probably don't realize that because they probably run generations of bikes for like 30 years.
Well, I thought they axed the program. I thought they weren't doing any of it anymore.
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about the Pan Am, but
Because they got like race classes for that thing now. They're like racing them in
in the hooligans.
Hooligans, yeah.
Yep. They're racing the Pan Am and hooligans, and you know maybe they'll use that to develop it a little bit further. But when I say they need a Gen 2, I'm not saying they need to completely redesign the thing. I'm thinking they just need to polish it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at the kickstand side, Harley calls it the B side. That side of the bike, like it is just ugly. Like there's wires and hoses and stuff just hanging out and everything, and it's like they could have cleaned that up a little bit better.
They still have a 2025.
Yeah, and we'll see what they come up
Yeah.
with for 26. And the motor's a little clattery and stuff. They did have some reliability issues on the first couple first couple years, but then the later years are fine.
Yeah, that's a new motor platform.
But yeah,
so
that's
they're going to
new
have a
motor,
little bit of
so
issues.
that's fine.
That's not specific to that bike per se.
569 pounds, 150 horsepower, 95 foot-pounds of torque.
I mean, it's
And
in line for an adventure bike.
It's a 1200 class
1250,
adventure
yeah.
bike.
On paper, it looks good.
And when you ride one, they ride good. They handle good. Like there's nothing wrong with a Pan Am. I'm
The
perfectly fine with
bones
them.
are good. It
Yep.
just needs
Just needs
a
polished up.
facelift a
Yep.
little bit. Just some stuff, just some silly stuff cleaned up. Like the handlebars, when you turn them all the way, they hit the windscreen.
Yeah,
Like
it's
just some silly stuff.
Just silly crap like that they should have figured out from the get go. But hey, it was their first attempt,
Yeah.
and I'm not mad at them for it. And I think Indian, not to say they should compete with Harley, but they could have at least followed suit in that regard because
Yeah.
you're not just competing with Harley. Harley took on the rest of the world when they brought that bike out, which is like a first for them in a
Yeah.
long time, anyways. Where Indian was always trying to compete with Harley, and what does that say about Indian
Yep.
if Harley is always on a higher pedestal than them? Like it just says that they're always going to be behind them.
Harley's chasing the world, and Indian is just chasing Harley. you know?
Exactly.
They're just a little dog running after the heels of the big dog, and the big dog is chasing the people. You know,
So it's like
So, like, they need to get out ahead of Harley.
Yeah, exactly.
if they're gonna get if they're going to compete. They can't compete by following.
You can't be a trend follower. You got to be a trendsetter.
Yep.
And they just weren't doing that. I don't know if it was Polaris's call as to why they weren't doing that. And maybe them going on with Carolwood, they'll be able to, you know, get out there and start doing things on their own and making their own ideas and their own inventions, so they can bring something more exciting to market. Like ultimately, a current Indian is like, you can tell directly who it's for.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, yep. And I even say when I have customers come into the showroom, they don't know the names of the bikes, so I'll just go, yeah, that's an Indian Street Glide, that's an Indian Road Glide, and they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And that's how bad it is. I can't even call the Indian by its own name. I have to go to make it to where the customers understand what it is. I have to call it by the Harley name.
Yep. Which tells you that they're just window shopping the alternatives, but they're probably looking at the Harley.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every last one of them is.
And it just shows that they need to do something, and they need to make some kind of significant change in the products to be not compared to, but be the one that's being compared from.
And you know, one bike that has, in the cruiser world, that has a lot of hype surrounding it, funny enough, is a Buell. It's the Super Cruiser. And
oh yeah, I almost sent that to you last night. I popped up on my feed.
And what did they do? Now, don't get me wrong, they've taken years and years and years to get this thing finally into production. But one thing they did that I thought was interesting is they actually made horsepower, and all they did was take their same motor they've been using. They only have one motor, and they just stuck it in a cruiser platform. They had Roland Sands come in and build them a frame, and it's basically a Dyna. Like, the bike's basically a Dyna with a liquid-cooled Superbike V-twin in it. It's not really like that innovative, but Indian has a liquid-cooled V-twin that is close to 1,800 cc's. You have the 112's like 1,800 and some odd cc's. It's that big, and it only makes like 125 horsepower. I'm like, but they got a Super Duke sitting right here. This is 180 horsepower, and that's old. This is 2017. The 2025 1390 Super Dukes are 190 horsepower. Panigale had 200 plus horsepower 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a V-twin, you know? And you could say like, oh, well, they want to produce torque. Yeah, the Panigales didn't produce torque. You had to spin the hell out of them to get any kind of power out of them. But the KTM, that thing rips right off idle. And I'm like, why couldn't they do that with the Challenger Power Plus engine?
Because then they would all crash.
I'm like,
Too much power too soon.
and think about the publicity they would have gotten if they would have brought out 150, 160 horse bagger.
Oh, they'd have sold every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that would have just been such a slap in the face of Harley. If they would have brought out something that had that kind of horsepower, it'd been hilarious. Because Harley's over here making like 100 horse, 110 horse. They're 131. I don't know what it's rated at horsepower wise, but I know that if you tune on them and you do this, that, and the other, and you spend all kinds of money, you can get to 150 horse. You have to spend, buying the bike, buying the engine, getting all the stuff you need. You're 50, 60, 70 grand in. If you could have bought an Indian for 30 grand and had 150 horse, it would have just been hilarious. And they chose not to.
Well, I don't think Carolwood is the appropriate partner for them to do anything innovative.
Yeah, I'm questioning that myself.
Which part of me thinks that like 4-5 years from now, let's see who buys the remnants of Indian motorcycle. I think it could be the Big H.
No, I don't think they will.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think they'd touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that'd be like
they don't want to just own all of the brands and call it their market.
Dilute in the water. You don't want to do that.
There's too much bad blood.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't ever do that. I think that if it doesn't work out with Carolwood, I think that
somebody else will buy them.
I think they'll piece them out. I don't think that they're going to sell them as a whole working brand. I think that they'll piece them out, sell off all the assets, and roll on. And I think the name itself will probably get held on to by Carolwood until there's been several small companies that have owned the Indian name in the past.
Oh.
And probably the most successful of all the small companies was a company called Gilroy. They're out of they're down in like North Carolina or something. They were a custom bike builder that bought the name Indian and slapped the name Indian on the side of a custom frame that they stuck an SS Harley motor in, and they called it an Indian. And those are called the Gilroy Indians. And we get them in from time to time. We don't work on them. They're kind of pieces of crap because most custom Harley type bikes were huge pieces of crap, like OCC bikes and stuff. So that was like the person that owned Indian before Polaris did.
How long has Polaris owned Indian?
Since 2012, technically.
So 13 years.
So you would think in 13 years if something was going to happen, they'd have done it. You know, if any innovation was going to happen, it would have happened with them. Like, Polaris is in the business of making stuff. And since then, they've made a lot of new things. So it's not like they're afraid to innovate product lines.
But it's never been in the motorcycle sector.
No, but that's why they let Indian do that. But they just tell them, make something, and then here's the money, make something that's going to make lots of money. I'm sure they did that. But the people at Indian or whatever, the people's involved in making the products just weren't making something that sold. They kept making the same thing. Well, they were making it better. They
were trying to build the better Harley.
Yeah.
And instead they should have just built the best Indian. And that's what they missed out on.
Yeah.
And they just kept going like, "Oh, what's Harley doing? Okay, let's build it a little bit better than them."
Yeah.
No.
Just constantly
Screw
chasing
Harley.
them.
Like just do you.
Yep.
Like, do you think BMW does that?
Yep.
No, BMW's just like, we're BMW, we're going to build the best BMW.
What happens when you're going through a corner and you're staring at the guy in front of you?
Yeah, you end up slowing down.
You end up slowing down. Instead of staring, you should be looking through them.
Yeah, look through them, look past them. Like, screw them. And that's exactly what's happening. That's a good analogy. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like Indian just I think they kind of screwed the pooch on that one.
Yep. And it's weird to think that, like, that entire thing could crumble in a couple years. Because you think of anything, they're like, oh, well, they're well established, they're well, rooted in what they're doing, and you'd think they'd sell lots of stuff because this shit's expensive.
But if you think about it,
there's a lot of money there.
They're only 13 years old, 14 years old.
This version
as a company,
of them.
This version of them. So they still don't have a lot of faith in the market. Doesn't have a lot of faith in them. They were still building that trust relationship with the market, and they're still really young for a manufacturer. So it's not a good look that they're being sold off like this. Even though it's all trying to be spun that, like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. Indian's going to be on their own.
They're always going to say that.
Like, well, if they couldn't survive with a gigantic company like Polaris supporting them, how are they going to survive on their own?
Yep. That's my thoughts exactly.
So
they're going to get a lot of insight from food, beverage, and real estate.
I mean, it's like I said, it's going to be cost cutting until it's profitable, if it ever gets profitable. And then at that point, maybe it will grow from there. But I feel like if it wasn't going to happen, this is not the right time to do this.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I think too. And Ducati, when it got bought out by the Audi group, technically I think Ducati's underneath the Lamborghini wing, but it's still the Audi group. When Ducati got bought out by them, that was hopeful because you had a large manufacturer. It was a vehicle manufacturer. It wasn't motorcycle. It was automotive, which is
somewhat relevant.
It's not only relevant. It's mega because they can learn to manufacture in a much more efficient manner, and that's exactly what Audi did to Ducati. Audi came in and said, "Look, we like your bikes. You make brilliant motorcycles. You just don't know how to manufacture that well." Let us show you how to manufacture. You guys just keep designing these wonderful motorcycles, and we'll show you how to build them efficiently so you can be profitable. And that's it. Because Ducati almost went out of business several times. And like other Italian manufacturers, I mean, hell, Ferrari's owned by Fiat, you know, and Ferrari's had its troubles financially because they're passion projects. They're not necessarily profit projects. But if they get leadership by a large-scale manufacturer that can show them how to manufacture efficiently, then they can become profitable, even though they're still passion projects.
Yep.
And that's kind of where Ducati is. The Panigale came out underneath Audi's leadership, and the Panigale's been their most successful model ever. And the Panigale, they sold like more Panigales than every other model in their history combined.
I don't doubt that at all.
It's like it's unreal how well
and
they
that's
did with
like
the Panigale.
that's like the new poster bike. Whenever you somebody says Ducati, that's the bike that they
Oh,
think.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
That everybody
yeah,
thinks
of course.
It's a very much a bedroom wall poster
Yep.
bike, 100%. So I mean, you know, if Indian would have had someone swoop in like that, I would have been a lot more hopeful. But since it's private equity, it's
Nah.
not looking great.
Not good.
You know,
No good situation. But we'll see. We
We'll
could
see.
be completely wrong. There could be the new Indian Scout Donut Edition.
like Donut Media.
No, like donut, like Little Debbie.
Get some cross paint schemes,
Exactly. Think about it. Think of the possibilities.
cookies and cream.
This
the-
could be
the
the
Kellogg's edition.
This could be the reinvention of Indian that they needed
Don't
through food and beverage.
don't be
Paint
giving those
schemes.
ideas out for free.
You gotta pay.
Royalties.
Well, I guess if we say it here and it gets on the YouTubes, we'll have legal proof.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Carolwood LP come out with some limited edition Indians with food and beverage wraps.
With sprinkles on them.
Precisely. And fringe. Lots of fringe.
Oh God.
Make the fringe look like Twizzlers.
That willow green and cream. They're gonna bring that back. Just let the Art Deco go, dude.
Best of luck, Indian. It's been real.